So I have been reading this book about forgiveness and learning how to walk through it. So I've been reading this book about forgiveness and how to walk yourself through it. And it's funny because she said forgiveness is a moment, like where you choose to forgive it, but it's also a process to kind of forgive the way that whatever somebody did way back then still impacts you today. And it caused me to remember an instance of this. So I had been on my own with Summer for, I think, a year, maybe a little more than a year. And I went on my first date. And I was terrified. But went on this date. This guy was super nice. I still look back on him and think of him as super nice. I think the problem was I wasn't ready. But anyways, we had a lovely first date. And so we agreed to go out again. And he was from out of town. So for our second date, we met in Burlington at a restaurant. Dinner was awesome. And again, we laughed and talked about a lot of stuff. Like, conversation was easy. It was really nice. So afterwards, we headed out to the cars, and he walked me to my car. And he went in to kiss me goodnight. And I remember feeling like he was eating my face. And like just licking my face and eating it like he hadn't had enough for dinner. And I was so grossed out, but I smiled and I said goodnight, and he said he was going to get in touch with me, but when we'd meet up again, I said that sounded great. And I got in my car, and that third date never happened. I started bawling my face off. I was so angry. I was driving home so angry at my ex-husband that he had put me in this situation, that I had to be back out on the dating scene, that I had to start this process all over again when it should have been a one and done. I found it, done, move on. And now I had to have these gross kisses and ugh, all because he screwed things up and our marriage ended. And man, I just remember that drive home. I was so angry, and it was such a trigger. There was nothing he had done per se in that moment, but all of my anger went towards him. And it got me to thinking about a situation later. As you may have read in some of my blog posts, my first husband ended up in jail after our marriage. And after that, we had to go to his court proceedings. And one of the questions that they gave to us was, did we want to seek restitution? And we went home to discuss it. And I remember my dad, we were debating it, and I think my thinking was, of course, yes, you seek restitution, obviously. But my dad said, no, we shouldn't seek restitution. And I said, why? And he said, because it just puts a ball and chain around him for the rest of his life, gives him no chance to turn his life around and be successful. And it also gives him no opportunity to turn around and be of any good to myself or my daughter. And that really hit me. And I have held on to that for a while. So then today, as I'm reading about forgiveness, this certain chapter just got me thinking, not just with my ex, but how often do I want restitution in situations? Big things, little things, like even sadly and ashamedly, with my kids and my stepkids, like if they make me feel unloved or something, or unwanted or shunned or whatever the word is, then I just shut down. And I think, in all honesty, part of me is waiting for some acknowledgement or apology or something, and then I'll let you in. Or a story I shared in my blog was that sometimes we like to go walk in different neighborhoods and different areas around Niagara. And there's this one place that we walk, and I know an individual who lives there, and I know that this individual makes similar choices as my ex-husband. But I also know this individual doesn't like dogs. And I will encourage Rafa to poo and pee on this particular yard just because I'm like, you know what? Screw you. If that's the kind of life you want to live, I'm going to have my dog crap on your grass. And I've actually been convicted about that the last couple months. So whenever we go there, I now try to get Rafa to poop or pee before or after. And I try to deliberately say a prayer because I feel like me holding resentment and anger towards this person who I've actually never met in my life has nothing to do with this person. It's me still looking for restitution from my first husband. And I just wonder how long we can live like that. Like, I don't know who you're waiting for restitution for. But is there any amount that is sufficient to cover our emotional hurt? Like, how the heck do we measure how much we're hurting and say, okay, you've now done enough to equal the hurt that I experienced? That's impossible. It's impossible to measure it. And in this particular instance, I've never wanted to be a bitter ex who's living in that world years down the road. And so I need to let this idea of restitution go. And I need to forgive because, like my dad said, yeah, it puts a ball and chain around him, but it also puts a ball and chain around me. And it restricts my life because now my life is restricted to waiting for something that is immeasurable and may never come at all. So I could be waiting till I'm 80 or 90, and that would be a crappy way to live life. And it's obviously not just regarding that. Like, in my head, I have other situations swirling in my head, small and big, that I just need to look at this and let it go. And one of the Bible stories she gave in her book today was about John 5, where Jesus asks this invalid if he wants to be well, because all he has to do is crawl into this pool to get better. And I won't get into her detail of it. But I thought, oh, if God asked me, do I want to be well? Yes, I guess I would want to be well. But then if he followed that up with, okay, then are you going to pursue restitution? I would hope my answer would be no. I would hope I would say no. It's not dependent on anybody else. I just need to focus on you and let you heal me. Because so long as I carry this burden and have this ball and chain around me that I think is around the other person, it's actually around me and it's weighing down my life and stopping me from doing any good and honoring God. And it's just not a fun way to do life. And so if you want to read further and read details, you can go click on my blog because I wrote about this today, but I thought I would just share it in person.